Welcome to Illuminate, Navigate, and Radiate. This is our first topic discussion. I'm Brandon, your host, and this is Michael McDermott from Virginia. How you doing today, Michael?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome, man. It's good seeing you again. Me and Michael went to college together and haven't seen each other for about 13, 14 years, so it's really awesome to be able to see you again and connect and have a good discussion today.
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's going to be fun and it's cool to see you, doing well. And I know that's all I really wanted for you. So I'm excited.
Yeah, man, awesome. Well, today we're talking about isolation and loneliness. Just going to go into some different aspects of it. Loneliness being more of that feeling and emotion behind feeling alone, where you could even be lonely in a group of people, in your own head, and then isolation more of that physical aspect of it, of actually isolating yourself, whether that's from relationships, from different environments, whatever that may be. I know I've had a lot of experiences with it. I know Michael has had some experiences with it as well. So we're just going to share our experiences a little bit, talk about, how we dealt with it, what we went through, and then different ways to cope with it. I mean, that's really what these topic discussions are, is to kind of dive into some of those conversations that might be uncomfortable for people to have, or for people to admit that they've experienced it. But also offer hope for somebody dealing with it right now, that, with that ability to put in work and to try and to try and to try and sometimes try again, things can get better, and you can grow, and things can look better in your life, with a little bit more light. So yeah, so just kind of jump into it. Michael, have you what's been some experiences with, like, either, let's start with loneliness, some of those just emotions or feeling of feeling like you're not able to connect with somebody, or feeling like you're just by yourself in life, in that moment.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I know that, I was at school and, met, a woman that was in my life and, things went well, but then when they didn't and we kind of weren't together anymore, I was back home in Virginia. She was back home in Maryland and I just kind of wasn't sure where I was without that type of life that I had. And, I was just kind of, whether I was with my family, whether I was even with friends, like I was still playing soccer, but I just wasn't really present mentally. Like I did what I had to, you know what I mean? But I wasn't really able to commit fully to where I was at, whether it was with family, whether I was trying to build a new relationship, even if it was just hanging out with the friends, watching some soccer, playing FIFA. I just never could really get out of that slump for a long time. And that's where I started to really experience being lonely without actually having to be by myself. And that's kind of where I kind of had my first experience, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, no, and I like that you said being present in that moment, and that's kind of like struggling to do that, right? Struggling to be present in a moment with other people. I know, like I've dealt with that feeling of loneliness a lot of different times in my life, and that's driven me to, made some of the choices that I made throughout my life. But it's something that it can be so hard to get out of. Like, even when I've had, good people around me, whether it was, in high school or that freshman year of college, I know, like, it was just like the real team environment, that we were in, and it was fun, and everybody was doing all, we were all getting along and everything, and successful. And it was, I just remember, like, feeling like I don't belong in this group. Like, I felt lonely because I didn't belong in the environment that I was in. And that's really tough to feel like that when you're around people that actually do want you around, but you're like convincing yourself that they don't,
Mm,
and you're by
it's
yourself.
tough.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Nah, man, you're not, you're 100% right. And like kind of nail on the head type of thing, because I know that, as I was trying to come out of it, I was falling deeper into it. And it sounds crazy because I wanted to not feel that way, but I couldn't find a way to not feel that way. So I just would try to force myself to hang out with people, but it wasn't doing anything, which actually led me to stop hanging out with people. And I would just be in my room all day, all night. I think I dropped off of the face of the world for like 3 or 4 days, and one of my best friends was like, "Yo, man, are you like good? Is everything okay? This is not you. You're a very happy type of person. What's going on? Why are you not hanging out? Like, why are you not responding to our messages? Like, are you like in danger? Is anything wrong? Like, causing concern for my friends and family, even though it wasn't anything more beyond than what I was going through, but it was still causing that concern. You know what I mean? And that's where, even though I had, like you said, good people around me, I couldn't really utilize that. I couldn't take advantage of that to help me in that moment, those early stages where I just was lost. And that was tough.
Yeah, and that's it's almost even harder sometimes when people are like reaching out and asking you about it because you don't know really what to say. Loneliness is like it's a hard thing to sit there and be like, yeah, man, I'm lonely. Like I feel lonely, and then people are just like, well, you got so and so, or you have this, or you have that, and it's like, yeah, but like I don't know what it is either. It's hard to like sit there and admit to like things just you feeling by yourself as you go through life. And I don't know if that's, my experience with it. I think it's kind of because I've always had that like double life in a lot of my environments of,
Mm,
like people didn't always know I was using hard drugs or I was, making some of those choices that I was making. And so like when I was around like you guys as that soccer team, I didn't always feel part of because I was hiding everything else I was doing. Or around my family, same idea. Like I felt lonely because I wasn't letting
right.
anybody into the true me because I didn't even know what the true me was, while I was going through a lot of those dark moments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and that's where it's tough. You don't really know what to do. And I also know that, sometimes when it's your friends or your close family that are trying to inquire, you're almost afraid to admit to them kind of what you're going through. You don't want that like sense of like I'm in trouble or I need help, but you kind of do, but you don't know how to really ask for the help, even though they're asking you, or do you need help? You just can't really get to that level of saying, yes, I'm lonely. I don't know what to do. It takes a lot to get to that level. And I know that when I finally got to that level, it started to really open up some doorways for me to really heal. And that was the first part of it because I wasn't really, hadn't recovered from what had happened. So that's why I was so stuck. I was living in the past or the memory that got me there and I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah. And again, that, living in the past or worrying about the future, that kind of goes back to that idea of not really being able to put yourself in a moment when you're surrounded by people and you can't put yourself in that moment. And I'm just in my own head of like, oh man, my life sucks. I feel like I don't have a true connection to, this best friend that I have right here. Or,
Yep.
I felt that with my wife at different times, like just going through that struggle of when I'm in my own head of like, you're lonely, you're lonely, you're lonely. And then like you said, it's a hard thing to admit because then you don't want people to be worried about you or, you don't think people are going to understand. Like I know when like reconnecting with you, I was probably a little surprised when you said like you've experienced that and felt that before because like sometimes you just don't expect that from people. People don't always show that or carry themselves in that way of like somebody who actually is struggling inside, which is why it's so important to be aware of that type of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean sometimes, even whether it's, what profession you're in, and I know that the profession I'm in, customer service, a little bit of sales will force you to that you could be having the worst day, everything could be going wrong, but to your customer's eyes, you cannot show that. You have to make sure that, everything's good. But what that can do is lead down a path of you're putting on the front, but you're not better. And so you kind of just keep doing enough and then it slowly creeps in, affects work, and then once it starts affecting more than just your personal life, that's when, things start getting a little bit more serious and you kind of have to start to shed some light on your own situation. Like, am I gonna, like, what do I got to do to get better? Am I just stuck? Why am I stuck? Is there anything I can do? What do I need to do do I need to talk to somebody? And I think that realization that you actually need to start to kind of illuminate it, if you will, that gives you the opportunity to really start figuring out, okay, I'm ready to try to make a step. I'm not just stuck anymore. I've been stuck. I'm ready to get out. What can I do? How do I start to kind of pave this way? Whether it's friends, family, my own, just kind of trying to heal on my own. Whether it's meditation, I know that actually something I've messed with a little bit. Try to just kind of, in the same way we're in our thoughts negatively, can I reverse that? Can I try to go positive with it? Whether it's just talking to yourself in a positive way. And I know sometimes when we're lonely, that's the worst times we talk down on ourselves. Like, I'm never going to get out of this. I don't really like my life or how it's gone, so I'm never going to be anybody that I thought I was going to be. Changing that to just like, I'm not where I thought I was going to be yet, but I know that there's something out there for me. I just haven't done it yet. And then kind of just adding one word changes the mentality, and that can help you kind of work your way out. At least that's how I started to pave my way. I don't know how it
Yeah.
was for you, but
No, and that yet word, that growth mindset, right? Having that growth mindset and changing some of those thoughts to it, yeah. And I know for me, I went more from that loneliness feeling, especially as my youth started to get worse, and really put myself in that isolation part of it, of like, actually taking, dropping out of college, leaving jobs, ending relationships, ghosting people, not showing up for what I was supposed to, sitting in a basement in the dark for days on end, or, whatever it may have been, is because then not only was I feeling like I didn't belong in certain places, and I was feeling really lonely, then as I was feeling that and convincing myself that's how my life was, I slowly started actually moving myself physically into that type of a space, right? Like actually removing people from my life, because it's like, oh, I don't have this. Right now I'm convincing myself I'm not connected to my parents or my brother, or you know, um, you know, different friends at the moment. So now I'm actually gonna just ignore them, and move myself to where I am fully by myself. And that's where, things can get like really dark and really hard, is because then you stop hearing, the people check on you. They stop, maybe they stop checking on you, or maybe they stop reaching out, or maybe that relationship ends. Um, and so going from that place to what you were just talking about, like, meditation, and that growth mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm not where I want to be right now, but I can get there, right? And that whole yet word is I can get there. So as you like started coming out of it, and working on those feelings of loneliness, what was like some of those, what did you use, as you were trying to, have a better sense of your mental health, and understand like you got to do certain things to take care of you, so you don't end up back feeling those things.
yeah, no, I mean it's a great question, and I know that it would be most likely different for everybody. But I think what really helped it for me was kind of that just put one foot in front of the other mentality, like just kind of get back to a routine that I knew was good for me, for my health, for my well being, and whether I was even fully present in those initial moments, just kind of forcing myself to get up, put the shoes on, brush my teeth, go for a run, come back, clean up, do some family time, and then eventually remembering the things that I kind of really did enjoy, but I was just kind of closing my mind off to what I was doing. Like I actually really enjoyed being around my family, but I was closed off. I closed off all those emotions. I didn't want to be around them in the happy way that I was. And that's when I just kind of really started to reconnect with how it felt to be happy doing the same things I was doing. And it wasn't easy. I'm not going to just say all of a sudden miraculously I was good, but every day was a little bit better than the last day. And that was my focus. If I could just do a little bit more today than I did yesterday, eventually I should get back to where I was, or at least close, or happy with where I'm going, to where I can keep growing there. And that's where it just kind of finding the fun in soccer, for example. I just wasn't playing anymore, but I got back to playing again. I got back to reffing. I was starting to become really good at, both again. And that, started to bring some more of that, like, look, I'm good at this. I don't have to try to I know what I can do. I'm good at this. I just need to learn how to, or relearn how to have fun doing the things I'm good at. And that's what really propelled me out. I'm also big into golf. And so just going golfing with the buddies, having a drink maybe on, the eighth hole, just kind of living the life of fun, friends, relaxing, not so worried about life in the moment, but being there in the moment, which is, I think that's where I kind of started to cross over to being able to help myself by using the resources I had, friends and family. So that's kind of where I started to transition.
And that's such a big point. Because I can relate a lot to that. Like, when I in order for me to stop feeling lonely, I had to get back to those things that I enjoy, and those passions that I had, and whether that was finding new ones, or it was reigniting and rediscovering, like soccer for me. Like, when I got myself back involved with it, I wasn't playing anymore. I did men's league, I think, for one summer,
Mm.
before, but I was coaching all the time, and so I didn't have that same mindset when I was playing. I wasn't like competitive. I didn't have like, that attitude of I need to go out and prove myself, but I had a different attitude of like, oh, I love this. And soccer really did a lot to keep me from going off the deep end sometimes. Like it kept bringing me back and feeling alive again. So now I get to share that experience with other people. I get to share that experience with kids growing up, and maybe soccer can be that positive thing in their life like it was for me. Um, and so reconnecting to some of those passions in life, or finding new ones, um, just being able to put yourself back into those is so important as you go, because there's so many things that stop us from enjoying our passions today. There's so many things that disconnect us from life and being in the moment, and from actually connecting with people. It's so important to actively put in that effort to do it, kind of like you were saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's not, nowhere is it easy, and nowhere is it written in a handbook on how you're supposed to do it. And it's going to be different for anybody who tries to do it. But just focusing on what you either enjoy, stuff you may enjoy, like you said, something, some new passions, or just something that you know always made you happy. Finding a way to reinsert that into your life could be the light at the end of the tunnel that you just didn't see until that moment, and then that can just really propel you forward in that kind of kickstart mentality where now you have an idea, you can see a little bit of a future plan in place, even if it's still a little dim, you're not quite sure where it's going, but you know it's not going down anymore, it's going up. And that's really the most important, I think, psychologically and mentally. You feel like you know where you're trying to go, and that can be the biggest difference from the opposite. And I know that's where I started to really actually enjoy it, and I was starting to become more present in the moments. And then I realized just how good I was at some of the things I enjoyed, and soccer thankfully being one of them. I just started having a good time. I was playing on some of the best teams, and it was fun, and I really got the excitement. And then that caused me to kind of just, it's almost like when it hit, and it was like I am not back, but I was excited for life. And I know I wasn't excited for life for, I'll just say, a several number of weeks leading up to that moment. But there was that moment that made me really remember why I wasn't like that my whole life. I was stuck in that moment for a time period, a temporary moment, or if you want to call it, that timeline, that period of time where I just wasn't able to do much. And then, like almost like a flip of a switch, once I really had that experience of just enjoying everything about what I was doing, and it just kind of came in a surge, and I was like, I just need to have as much excitement in my life as possible. Can I ref more? Can I coach more? How do I help out? Can I start doing more things with my friends, family? And then it just kind of rushed in, and I was grateful because it wasn't easy to get there, but also was very exciting when it did, because, I wasn't sure, for 7 weeks, 8 weeks where I was going. I was just like, I wasn't really thinking about the serious side of not going anywhere, but living in your parents' house, after college, not really making money, not trying to be a burden, but also don't really care that you are. Like that type of stuff slips in, and you don't really know where to go. And I'm just grateful that that kind of attachment that I had to some of the stuff that was fun, that I enjoyed, helped bring me out, because I know everybody, for the most part, has something they either love, they're passionate about, or they were passionate about, or did love at some point, that can help kind of reconnect to what they haven't found or can't find,
Yeah, and especially reconnect, right? I mean, really that word in itself is a huge answer to working on those feelings of loneliness or isolation, because that's what it's all about, to reconnect with people, to reconnect with ideas, to reconnect with passion and energy and joy. That's really what we have to do when we're in those moments of loneliness or isolation, and whether that's finding some of the things we just talked about with passions, or putting some real effort into relationships, to truly being in the moment with somebody when you're hanging out with them. Or sometimes I remember I kept having to try counseling too, like if that's
Mm,
what we have to do to be able to reconnect and to get some of those thoughts out. Like it's so important to try anything you can try, and that way you have all these different options kind of there, to where when you are feeling really good again, right, when you do reignite that passion, or you do reignite that excitement for life, when it starts, like you can see it start fading, or you could feel yourself removing, stepping back again or falling back. Now it's like, okay, well, now I can try this out. Now I can go into doing some more meditation, or now I can reconnect with this person to bring me back out of it. And we don't let ourselves get so deep back into that loneliness or isolation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know that's the kind of always the fear, you feel like you're doing great, and then one day that you're supposed to hang out with your friend falls through, and it just takes that event to trigger the opposite effect of everything you've been building. And there was a day for me where it was kind of like that. We're supposed to go golfing. I was, excited. Everything was going good. He's like, yo, I can't go. I got to go to work, whatever. I was like, bro, you took off work. What do you mean? Like, we were playing golf today. And I saw myself getting almost violent in a way because I was like very mad about how I started to feel. And it was not exciting at all like I had hoped it was going to be. And then that's kind of where I was like, yo, you kind of have to be careful because I fell back into it for a couple of days where I didn't talk to anybody. And then thankfully, I wasn't that far back. I was able to kind of just pick back up where I left off with the routine, and I kind of came out of it over a couple more days. So it wasn't serious like it was, but it could have been. And I was very fortunate that I'd kind of already reconnected as we were talking about with some of those stuff that I was able to kind of almost as a tether pulling me back up as opposed to, pushing me down. And that was where I just am grateful because it's not always, not always going to be the case. And, it could have been something a lot worse that could have happened, and that could have pushed me down. I could have lost a family member. Something serious could have happened in my life that was beyond just a friend event that we had. And that's where having that type of you know stability, once you build it back up, having some something that you can really hold on to, almost like an anchor, but the opposite, pulling you back up to like float. And it's not something that I was able to, always get to easily. But because I had good, support system in my life, and I was blessed to have people that would at least be there. If I reached my hand out, they would reach back. And that was where it kind of helped me know I can't let this happen more than it is. And if I keep going down, it's going to get worse. And so I kind of just, in a way, helped force myself out of situations like that, even though, it was a rocky road. It wasn't, one day I'm great and I'm better forever. It's not the way it works. And it's, something we have to always remember too.
Yeah, and like I really want to hit on that point, right? Because people go through that all the time. People, they start getting something back in their life, and then something goes wrong. And like you said, it can be something that seems so small as somebody canceling on you, or maybe your car breaking down on your way to work. So then that changes your whole day. Or it can be something bigger, like somebody passing away that you're really connected to, or maybe you're moving on, transitioning to a new part of your life. So a lot of things are changing, and we let those events pull us all the way back down. And we're like, oh well, things aren't good today, so they're not going to be good tomorrow, and it's really hard to keep that mindset sometimes. But like you're all gonna have those bumps, right? We're all gonna. Life isn't, you don't feel that good one day, and then that means the whole rest of your life is gonna be that good feeling. Like you're gonna hit those challenges and those bumps and those days where you do feel like shit, right? Those days where it is a struggle to just get out of bed and brush your teeth or take a shower or do something good for yourself. Um, but the way we continue to get better from that is we don't let that become our life again, right? Like we say, okay, I screwed up yesterday. Like, I didn't take a shower. I laid in bed and watched Netflix and ate that whole tub of ice cream and
Mm, yes,
whatever it may
sir.
be. But that's okay. Like we're all gonna have those days where we struggle, and it's so important to not be so hard on yourself. It is so important to not be like, convince yourself in your mind again that you messed up once, so that means you're a failure, or that means, you deserve to be lonely, or you should go isolate because, somebody canceled on you, or because maybe you couldn't make that commitment. And so, that's okay. Those things happen. It's so important not to beat yourself up to the point where you're pushing yourself back into a hole that gets deeper and deeper, and then it's the further down we go, sometimes it's harder and harder to pull ourselves back out of it.
Absolutely. And I know that, even just that justification is crazy what, our minds will do, especially when we're kind of feeding it the same thought over and over again in that event where we're starting to go back down and, we did have a bad day. Being kind of aware at that point, like you already went through this, it's not the first time. Can I pull myself out? You know what? I did eat that whole tub of ice cream. I did binge watch a whole series on Hulu. and I didn't do what I had been doing, but being able to kind of recognize that that was what it is and step away from the whole thought of it, the feeling of being in it, that can really help put you right back, like, oh, you know what, I'm better than this. Like, I don't have to justify the action for this to make it why I am lonely, why I need to isolate. I don't need to isolate, but I'm convincing myself I do, even though for the past 3 weeks I've been good. One thing happened, and now I'm, no, like, yes, I had a bad day, and it's okay. It's okay to have a day that's not great. You're going to have them no matter what. You could be the happiest person in the world. You're going to have days that maybe nobody even knows about that aren't good. Nobody has. If there was no bad, there would be no good. We would just be blah. So it's very important to remember you're going to have days that suck. Plain and simple. We go through them. Being able to manage how that suck affects you. Responding. I think the famous quote from my friend, it may be a common one, but maybe, super important and relevant. It's not always the cards that you're dealt, but how you play them. You know what I mean? So how you respond in life can be a lot more important than what was dealt to you. You might have went through some crazy stuff, but can you find a way to respond to it in a different way than what's expected? And that's the challenge, but also what can bring you out once you've already come out, so you don't have to try to go in this spiral circle of I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up, because it's very easy to fall into that cycle. And sometimes that lasts a long time. So that's where you just really have to try your best to focus on kind of what you've been doing. Like, you've got a plan, you've been focusing on doing the things that are getting you out. Sometimes you just have to redouble effort that focus, and then, you can slowly build your way back out, even if it takes a few days. But recognizing that that's not what you want, I think, is crucial to being able to help you make sure you don't fall further and further. And then before you know it, back to square one.
Yeah, and being able to see that and realize it, and just it's really okay to say you're struggling. Like, I know, especially maybe, even as men, maybe it's even a little bit less acceptable for us at times to say, like, yeah, I'm struggling right now. Like, I remember going through a period just recently where people would ask me if I'm okay, and I would just say, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Even though I was struggling internally. Like, I was struggling mentally, and when I finally did tell somebody, like, man, I'm struggling. Like, I'm hurting right now. I'm trying to figure it all out again. And that's where we start to be able to make those changes. Like, it really is okay to say you are struggling, and, like, you need help, like reaching out, and finding different ways to put yourself back out there, whether it's, just texting a friend and telling them, like, hey, I'm struggling. Just being honest in that moment can open up that conversation to where you can admit to how you're truly feeling, or whether that's, like, I know for me and you, soccer's connected a lot to our passion. So whether that's, stepping back out on the field, whether with some friends or by ourselves, or just having a ball at our feet, like, that can feel really good at times. And sometimes, like, it just gets to that point where you have to rely on different professionals too, and that's okay as well, to get help, counseling, or whatever that may be. But yeah, it's just like, I would encourage anybody that is struggling and feeling lonely or starting to feel yourself isolate, like, tell somebody right away. Just say, hey, I'm not feeling well. Because that can be, it seems like a really small step, but I know every time I've told somebody, like, I was struggling, like, reached out and said that, that was the catalyst to get that ball rolling, to be able to where we are, and feeling good and excited and feeling connected, with people around us again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, I've had a problem with it even throughout my life. It's just when you don't say anything the first time and then it happens again and you don't say anything, it's like a bottle that fills up over time in your body, and eventually that will fill up. And whether it's now, later, or later, you're going to eventually pop, and that bottle's going to go up, and it just could be a lot worse. So being able to express that, even just talk about it, release that type of internal energy that's stored up, can be exactly what you said, kind of propels you to not be so focused on that, and almost help someone else hold you accountable for getting better. You know what I mean? When you talk to somebody, they want you to do better. If you're reaching out to a friend or family member that's got your interests in mind, they want you to, how can I help you be better? Like, thank you for reaching out. I what do we need to talk? Like, what do we need to go eat? Do we need to go play a game? Do we need to go see a movie? Like, what do we need to do to help you be able to express how you're feeling? Because that's the most important right now, is getting it out. Because once it's out, not only do you feel better, but you can actually work on what that is and try to find some type of, whether it's related to them or, like you said, maybe counseling, whatever the case is, but you know you need something, as opposed to not talking about it ever, never knowing what's really the problem or ever trying to figure out what that might be. And then you kind of, like you said, that's where the isolation hits hard, because you don't want to be around anybody. You're really just trying to go through life day by day, and that's just good enough. And then that's where, you don't ever give yourself the opportunity to come out of it. And I think that's where we've all been at some point too.
Yeah, and you know, thinking about it in loneliness today is kind of crazy, because we've never been more connected as a society, right? And yet loneliness is probably more prevalent than it ever has been. Like those feelings of loneliness, and then those actions where you start to isolate. Um, so I mean, you can have 500 or 5,000 friends on Facebook, or followers on Instagram or whatever, but if you're not really connecting with people, that's where those feelings can start to eat you alive, right? Where if you're not really, like you said, reaching out and building those connections and putting effort into those connections, then they don't happen for you. So being able to do that, and just being able to say that is it's the way we recover, and we do that together, right? And whether it's we've been feeling lonely for 10 years or we've been feeling lonely for 3 days, like we still want to take care of it before we end up getting worse and worse and worse. And like for me, my isolation puts me in, using drugs and bad thoughts. And for other people that all looks different, but usually that isolation and loneliness only leads to those negative influences in our life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where it's just, it's, and, once you start to get out of it, but, in the moment of where you're still feeling that type of isolation, you're just like, you don't, it's not what you want, but you're not sure where to go. And that's, why I was so, kind of in a way forced myself to just do it, just get up. I don't like myself right now. But then after you do that every day for several days, for a week, for a few months, and then, yeah, there's going to be bumps like we spoke about, but eventually, that's kind of how I came out of it. And then, for the next several, months to a year, yeah, we'll have a bad day here and there, but it wasn't the focus of what happened. It wasn't the forefront of everything. My life was still great. I was still able to go to work and do what I was supposed to do, provide for my family, and still enjoy time what I was supposed to do. And just, that one bad day, it's okay to have that type of, I need to be alone for a day. That's okay. And it's okay to admit that, but don't feel like that's something that's going to cause you to be, oh no, I don't want to be alone for one day. I'm going to be alone forever. If you have to take some space because you've been around everybody, it's okay. And that's what I did too. Some days, even to this day, I got, two kids running around. I got, my wife, fiance, soon to be wife. And she's just, sometimes it's like, okay, I was cooking in the morning and I was playing with the kids during the day. And then now I just need some time for myself. That is okay. That's not sick. That's what you want, to be able to have those moments where you can step away, reflect on the day, reconnect kind of with yourself. If you have some passions, the stuff that you do that maybe is just yours. For me, I do like to read, articles, whether it's related to, what's going on today or just stuff from the past. But that's kind of where I have reconnected with myself, which I know is important too, because as much as we're reconnecting with other people, I think that's sometimes where we don't always get back to, is reconnecting with ourselves. And I think that really helps make sure that we kind of come full circle. We make sure that, hey, this is how I want to live my life. This is why I'm happy where I was and why I'm happy now. And then now I can, feel good talking about this to other people, because I feel great and I want other people to know it's okay. And it's possible to feel lonely one day and not feel lonely the next day. Even if you've been feeling lonely for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever the case is, it's not a forever thing if you don't want it to be, but you do have to take that first step. And sometimes that is the hardest step.
Yeah, and I love that you said the reconnecting with yourself part, because that's a big part of it as well, is being able to really have those moments with yourself. And that's that difference between loneliness and taking a moment to yourself, is like you're purposely taking that moment to reconnect to process maybe some of your thoughts or some of your feelings or emotions throughout the day, and then understand what those mean to you and how you take those moving forward. Um, and yeah, it doesn't have to be forever, and having these like discussions focused on a topic that's what we want to do is just is kind of show like, me and Michael were two different people from two different paths of life who also took two different journeys after we had met. And we both struggled with some of those same thoughts and feelings and emotions. And it's so important to show like everybody deals with this stuff and like it's okay. We should be able to say it a little bit more. We should be able to admit it a little bit more freely and not feel like, well, I gotta be this certain way because this is how people see me, or I gotta be this certain way because this is my perception to people that don't know me. And those are a couple things that hold us back, I think, from admitting and then truly growing in those moments. So, I really appreciate you jumping on today and reconnecting our great friendship that we had years and years ago, and being able to talk about something that, I think is tough to admit. I think can be almost even tougher sometimes as a man to admit, or as a family person, whether that's a mother or a father, or somebody who may be popular or have all the friends, or it's no matter what you are, you can be lonely. You can start isolating, and that's why it's so important to just be able to say like, oh yeah, I'm struggling right now. I need to figure out a way to get better before I end up getting worse.
Absolutely. No, man, I appreciate you having me on. I think that this is going to help a lot of people out just listening to, even just specific to this, but also just overall growth, mental awareness, but beyond that, also finding a plan, like being able to, navigate your way through it, which is important because, that way you can start to find that light. The picture goes from dim to bright and you actually see a long-term goal of where you see yourself in life. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's professional or otherwise, you can start to really build again because you were building before, it put you down. Now you're rebuilding again back to what you're trying to do, whether it's the same or different, you're growing again. And that's where I'm most excited for, just being able to share all sorts of topics with people. And also on top of that, just whether it's loneliness, whether, you're just trying to get better of any aspect of your life, that's where I think that, this is going to go a long way to help people that are at all stages of the growth and recovery process. And I just want to say it's been great reconnecting with you, Brandon. It's been crazy, man. Over a decade. I can't believe it. Everything that, all the crazy stuff that, kind of you went through specifically that, helped you get to where you are today, how you overcame a lot of stuff that, kind of in my mind defies the odds because it's not always something I hear people come out of. And I remember the first time I heard that, what you were going through was not, I felt like just a deep drop in my heart because of those memories that we built at AB. I probably consider you my best friend at AB while we were there because, we hung out all the time. Soccer connected us, played FIFA on that small TV, you know what I mean? So everything was just a good time that I loved and enjoyed. So when I heard that you were doing better, that kind of brought me back up and I'm just great to come full circle, 13, 14 years later and seeing that we can, help change other people's lives.
Yeah, man, and I love that. I mean, it was such a good time, and again, I appreciate it, and I think that's a great place to kind of end it because that's a huge part of it, right? Is that hope through any hard time, through any struggle, through any challenge, through any feelings of isolation or loneliness, to reconnecting and trying to do something important together is what life is all about, and continuing that journey, that self growth to the point where you can eventually radiate that onto other people and with other people and help other people bring their energy back out and their its excitement and passion and joy back out to keep spreading that positivity throughout life. So, again, man, I appreciate it. It's a great conversation. Looking forward to having some more topic discussions with you, and diving in some different things as we continue to reconnect and catch up, and then also spread that message of positivity, and that life can get better, and self growth can happen no matter what type of situation you're in.
Boom, 100%, man. Let's get it. I'm excited.
All right, man. Well, this has been Illuminate, Navigate, and Radiate. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.